השמיים ותגל הארץ ירם הים ומלואו ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ ירם הים ומלואו All together now. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim migam yachadu. And again now. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim migam yachadu. If you're joining us at home, make sure it's loud enough for us to hear. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim migam yachadu. Hit it, Dave. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim migam yachadu. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim migam yachadu. Last time. Hine ma tovu umanaimu shevet yachim. גם יחד. How good it is for all of us to be together. How wonderful it is for our community to come together. Whether you're here with us today in person or if you're with us online, it's after weeks like we've had from one Shabbat to the next, where it's nice to affirm our trust in community, our faith in sacred living, and our belief that what is good and pure in this world will always overcome whatever evils or injustices are out there. I know from many of you over this last week that there are calls of concern, calls of curiosity, calls of solidarity after what happened in Colleyville, Texas. And in this last week, we have stood one of many congregations in solidarity with one another, and not just within the Reform movement, but all movements have reached out. Not only that, all faiths have reached out too. The interfaith community of New Brunswick is strong and has reached out, lending their thoughts and their prayers as well. Yes, what happened last Shabbat was scary and tragic and horrifying. But out of that has come this glowing beacon of light of those who stand up against hate and affirm their sacred belief in the promise of tomorrow. So as we join together in prayer this evening, let us leave those thoughts of sadness or of dread behind us, and instead embrace what Shabbat is supposed to be: a separate time, a separate place, where we can dream of the world as we long for it to be, live in that world with pure joy and gladness as we thank God for the miracle of creation and for the joy of life and living. Let's take a moment now to take a deep breath and let the last week pass so we can come into Shabbat together.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Ina Horn, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Anshe Emeth Memorial Temple. It is heartwarming to see so many of you in attendance here this evening, especially on this cold, cold night. In moments following trauma, like the one in Colleyville, Texas, people want to be together, whether virtually gathering or in person. It is a sign of unity. And what better way to celebrate our community's strength and resilience than by worshiping together on Shabbat? Now it is my pleasure to call on Ann Thayer Cohen to the Bima to light the Shabbat candles and to lead us in the blessings that may be found on pages 2 and 3 in your prayer book. Shabbat Shalom.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who hold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue on page 20 in the singing of Lecha Dodi. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Shamor
V'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'lid tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat
kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Lekrat Shabbat lechu b'nilcha, Ki mekor ha'eracha, Merosh mikedem mesucha, Sochase b'machshavat tefila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech yirmelucha, U'mitzei mitoch ha'apecha, Ravach shevet ve'emek habacha, Vehu yachamol alaychem la. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Itznari me'afar kumi, Livshi b'gnei tartei chami, Al yad v'nishar v'talachmi, Korban nafshi ge'ala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Itoreri, itoreri, Ki ha'orech umi uri, 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 shir daveri, Kevod Adonai alayk milah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lo teroshi ve'lo tikani, ma tishtachachi, u'ma temi bach yechesu. Aniyei ami v'nivneta ir al tila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Ve'hayulim shisa shosayk v'rachaku, Kol melayik yasis alayik, Elohayik kivsos hatan al kala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat Yamimus motiv rotzim et Adonai, Taritzi al Yadish, Ben Parsi v'nismecha v'nagila, Kadodi Krakala, Shabbat lekabla, Kadodi Krakala. We rise in either body or spirit. Boi v'shalom, alteret bala, gam b'simcha, uvetzola, toch emuneh, am segula. Boi hala, boi hala. Vechadodi likrakala, ene Shabbat nekabela. Vechadodi likrakala, ene Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמא דברך יורתה וימליך מלכותה.
B'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayed kol Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala u'v'zman kariv.
ויאמרו
Amen. Eshme Rabba Mevora Le'olam olam me'amaya Yitbarach.
יתברך ויתשבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה
Brichu.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה
Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran v'yama.
ויאמרו
Amen. We rise now in either body or spirit for the Baruchu on page 28. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bivaro mariv aravim, v'chma poteach she'arim, uvitfuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmeroteim barakia kirtsono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila, u'mavdil ben yom u'vein laila, Adonai Tzavot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Imloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim.
ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך, היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני
page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens reveal your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. On page 43, give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haparei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, borei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, borei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei shevi Shabbat. Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Uvashvi ratzita bo, ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, Emdat Yamim, Oto Karata Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu
continue our silent Amidah with the words on the page or the words of our own hearts or some combination thereof through page 63. We will probably always remember where we were when we heard that 3 congregants and their rabbi had been taken hostage at a small Reform synagogue in a Texas suburb we'd likely never heard of, but whose name has become synonymous with overwhelming fear, furious prayer for safety, and a cautious sense of deliverance when we learned that, thank God, all 4 hostages had gotten out safe. I, for one, am growing weary of remembering where I was when, as Shabbat came to a close, I learned of an act of violence perpetrated against Jews praying in a synagogue, when in all likelihood, I was praying in a synagogue that day too. The psalmist says, Dacho dichitani linpol vadonai azarani. You pressed me hard, I nearly fell, but God was there to help me. If any of us know one thing about last week's Parsha, Beshalach, It's the Exodus from Egypt. It's the moment of freedom, the paragon of God's deliverance. What's easy to forget is that that same Parsha ends with an attack on the Israelites, an attack on our people. Maybe, after the events of last Shabbat, this chronology will be somewhat harder to forget. At the end of last week's Parsha, Amalek, the paragon of evil and enmity, attacked our ancestors, attacked us. According to the 15th century rabbis Yitzchak Abravanel and Yitzchak Arama, Amalek attacked a defenseless group of escaped slaves for no military purpose, only for the sake of the violence. Our Torah instructs us to remember Amalek and to blot out his name, a paradox fitting for the events of last Shabbat. But in this week's Parsha, we begin with the antithesis of Amalek's attack. Where Amalek brings war, this Parsha brings peace. Where Moses chooses men to fight Amalek, in this Parsha, Moses chooses men to promote justice. This Parsha begins with a visit from Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, a Midianite priest. That is to say, a priest of a different religion, a member of a different people. When Moses sees Jethro, his sense of relief and comfort leaps from the page. Jethro is a figure from his former life, before he saw the burning bush, before frustrating and difficult encounters with Pharaoh, before running from armies, needing God to split the sea, only to be met on the other side with the Israelites' constant complaints. Jethro, the Midianite priest, is the closest thing to a father Moses has ever known. The short story of their encounter offers a few lenses through which to make sense of all the pain and secondhand trauma and newfound fear that was brought into our lives last Shabbat. In the first verse of our Parsha, we learned that Jethro heard everything that God had done for Moses and for Israel, God's people, how Adonai had brought Israel out of Egypt. But only a few verses later, our Torah says that Moses recounted to his father-in-law everything that Adonai had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had befallen them on the way, and how Adonai had delivered them. Jethro already knows everything that happened, but Moses tells him everything anyway. It sounds to me not like Moses spoke in order to share information with Jethro, but rather that Moses spoke because he needed to share. He needed someone to bear witness to all he had experienced, the pain, the frustration, the fear, the relief. And when he was busy being the leader of the Israelites, he didn't have anyone to tell. When Jethro, his loving father figure, shows up, he brings an ear to hear Moses' plight. We too need people to bear witness to what we've experienced as individuals and as a community this week. We need to share what happened with people who already have the information. We need to share our fears, our feelings, our relief, our trepidation. And in the moments when we have the capacity, we can bear witness to others' stories of the moment they learned what happened, of being glued to the TV or social media, of daring to hope or trying to pray. When Moses and Jethro first meet after a long separation, the first thing they do is ask after each other's welfare, literally each other's shalom, their health, their wholeness, their capacity for inner peace. But though in this parasha, Moses' relationship with his Midianite father-in-law is one of peace and support, elsewhere in the Torah, the Midianites are not portrayed in such a positive light. We might have complicated feelings about our non-Jewish neighbors right now, and our Torah has those too. In Numbers, chapter 31, God instructs Moses to make war on the Midianites. Our sages wondered why on the Midianites and not the Moabites, and conclude that Jethro's people, the Midianites, made an alliance with the Moabites, one of Israel's enemies. A midrash tells the story of the conversation between the Moabite and the Midianite leaders. Since Moses grew up in Midian, the Moabites ask the Midianites what Moses is like in order to learn how to make war against him. The Midianite elders respond, "Moses? His power is only in his mouth." It is only after this conversation, our sages teach us, that Midian and Moab joined forces against the Israelites. Midian's alliance with Israel's enemies was based on the idea that Moses' words had particular power. And of course, in the narrative, Moses' words do have unique power. He is the prophet par excellence who has a special in with God. But this week, it hits pretty close to home. The idea of an enemy alliance against the Israelites. All based on the idea that our words have special power. The hostage taker believed that Jews' words have unique power in this world. That if he took 4 random Jews hostage, he could get whatever he wanted. His act of violence was rooted in a centuries-old conspiracy that the Jews run the world, that we control the arms of power. In the wake of this attack, the FBI stated that the hostage taker, whose name, like Amalek's, we shall remember and blot out, was specifically focused on an issue not connected to the Jewish community. But we know that anti-Semitic conspiracies are very much connected to the Jewish community. And though radicals of many faiths and no faith form a kind of alliance against us, using these conspiracy theories about our communal power, we know too that the situation right now cannot be boiled down to us versus them. In a conference room near Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, the Imam Omar Suleiman and Pastor Bob Roberts, a Baptist, prayed for the safety of the hostages and comforted Adina Citron Walker, Rabbi Charlie's wife. Aisha Shalfi, a Colleyville Muslim who brought food to comfort those in the conference room, said that just like the Charlottesville attack galvanized us against white supremacy, she hopes the Beth Israel standoff can serve a similar purpose. Imam Abdullah Antempli, a professor at Duke Divinity School, used the occasion to call for American Muslims to more actively oppose anti-Semitism. Some Midianite elders may have joined forces with Moab against Israel, but Jethro, the Midianite, came to Moses' support and even brought sacrifices to Adonai, to Israel's God, as a show of gratitude for the deliverance of his son-in-law's people. Perhaps one more detail from the story of Jethro's visit might lend us some comfort this week. Jethro brings Moses' wife Zipporah and his 2 sons to the Israelites' camp in the wilderness. Evidently, Moses' family had stayed in Midian. We learn here for the first time the names of Moses' 2 sons. One was named Gershom, a play on the phrase Ger Sham, meaning, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. The other was named Eliezer, which means my God is my help. Right now, the world feels foreign. It's like we're in a foreign land, a land we've never known, where someone could take hostages in a synagogue because an anti-Semitic conspiracy told him that might be how to get what he wants. But God is our help, who gives the strength to the hostages to free themselves. Blessed is the Eternal One who frees the captive. In this foreign land of new danger, coming here tonight for those of you in the building with us might have been an act of faith as well as an act of religion. Some of us joining on the live stream might be doing so more because of the events of last Shabbat than because of COVID or convenience, and we hope to see you soon. And just as we moved from war to peace between last week's parsha and this week's, may we move from violence to peace, from turmoil to peace, from fear to peace, as the days pass and we process last Shabbat's attack. May we support one another, and may we stand against the Islamophobia unleashed in the wake of this attack, as our Muslim neighbors are standing against the anti-Semitism of it. Many of us are not okay, but we will be, said Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker at Congregation Beth Israel's service of healing and resilience. Many of us are not okay, but we will be. May that be God's will.
It is good to have you all with us. Just a few short announcements before we conclude our service. Our thanks tonight to Philip Fishman and Dave Schlossberg for our music, and thank you, Philip, for stepping in as our cantor is taking a much-needed break this week. Our weekend is actually a rather full one. Tomorrow you can join me at 10:45 for our Rabbinic Forum as we examine the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his relationship with Jews and the Jewish people, with him and his legacy. Coming up on Wednesday the 2nd, we have a lunch and learn with Rabbi Miller, and I'd like you to put on your calendar our next town hall meeting, which will be Wednesday, February 2nd at 7 p.m., where we discuss how we do security at Anshe Emeth to make sure everybody's feeling secure, and how we handle security, and how we unpack 2 weeks later the events of Colleyville, Texas, and how we as a congregation are processing it. Yes, we are all processing it in one way or another. We're all thinking about what it means to live in this world as Jews. But we always do it in support of one another and help lift each other up. And that is what we'll be doing at the next town hall meeting together. At the conclusion of the service, we're going to do Kiddush and Motzi here in the sanctuary. And as you head outside, there will be a oneg to go. As you can see, we're not only still in the midst of the pandemic in terms of our protocols, but in light of the Omicron variant, we've gotten a little bit more stringent with what we're doing to make sure everybody stays safe and healthy. And on the Shabbat Eve, as we're thinking about our own lives and our own health, in particular, we need to join together as one congregation to celebrate creation and the joy of life and living. And we turn our thoughts to those in our community for whom life has become precarious because of health or hospitalization. O God of healing, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers together with the prayers of those who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen them the healing powers you place within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and their families. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu hu yivarech et hacholim, refuat hanefesh u'refuat haguf, hashta'a b'ga'ala v'zman kariv v'nomar. Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless those in need of healing. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. We rise now in either body or spirit for Aleinu, found on page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד,
ושמו
אחד,
ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our lives have gone and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved, cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. And in affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. With hearts that ache and are saddened, we name now those whom death has recently taken from us, those whose families are observing the Shloshim. We remember Gilda Lipsky, wife of Larry of blessed memory, mother of David of blessed memory, mother-in-law to Fran, and grandmother to Andrew, Matthew, and Elian. We remember Bill Sanders, uncle of Pam, Ron Brandsdorfer, and Robin Sadie. We remember Elizabeth Falk, wife of Raymond of blessed memory, stepmother to David, stepmother to Joy, and grandmother to Philip Falk. We remember Naomi Feldman, mother of Carol, mother-in-law to Gary, mother of Donna, and grandmother to Jason, Nadine Lichtenberg. We remember Fred Rock, brother of Lori Levitt, brother-in-law to Bob, uncle of Lisa and Craig Peskin, and Benjamin and Gail Levitt. We remember Rita Karen, mother of Julie Kamen, blessed memory, mother-in-law to Phil, and Lynn and John White, grandmother of Fred Kamen, Jennifer Senick, Randall Marks, David and Sandra White, and Marcy and Sue Sullivan White. Great-grandmother to Julian Senick Kamen, Rebecca, Melissa, and Brittany. We remember Bunny Fredericks, wife of Roy Fredericks, sister of Connie Coonan, and Gary of blessed memory, and aunt of Chrissy and Ira Pullins. We remember Linda Getz, wife of Alan, mother of Daniel and Karen, Mitchell and Danny, and sister of Barbara and Michael, grandmother of Julian, Sebastian, Luna, and Kika. We remember Jackie Bostek, wife of Barry of blessed memory, mother of Andrew and Julie, Rachel and Archie, and Sharon Bostek and Michael Nalepa, grandmother of Leah and Ryan, Lucy and Meredith. We remember Selma Zimmerman, mother of Debbie and Jeff Sessie, Michael Zimmerman and Lori and Michael Walenti and grandmother of Brandon Walenti. On this Shabbat, we also recall those dear ones who died at this season in years past, and whose names we record with love in our service booklet this evening. Their names are forever bound to our hearts and are permanently inscribed throughout our building. If you are joining us tonight online to say Kaddish for a loved one, please either say their names aloud at home or type their names into the chat either on YouTube, Facebook, or our temple website, so that we can lift up the names of your loved ones together as one community. And if you are here in person to say Kaddish for a loved one, please say their names as I look out to you. Zichronam livracha. May all their names and memories only be for a blessing. I invite all the mourners, if able, to rise for Kadisha Tom, Mourner's Kaddish, on page 294. Yit Gadal, Vi Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'alma divrach hirutei, V'amlich malchutei, V'chaye chon, V'yomechon, Uvchaye dekol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala Vizman Kariv V'yamru Amen. Yehesh me Rabba Mivrach Leolam Lomei Almaya. Yitbarach V'ishtabach V'itpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemed Kudashah Brichu. Le'ela Minko Birchata V'shirata. Tush Bechata V'nechamata. Damiran B'alma V'yamru Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'mramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. May the source of strength and peace bestow peace to all who mourn. May we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved, as we say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimrama, uyase shalom. Aleinu v'yachol Yisrael, We turn to page 321 as we conclude with Adon Olam. Please rise. Adon Olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, v'et gasa v'et tzavot, azai melech shemo nikra, azai melech shemo nikra, ve'acharei tikot ha'kol, ve'ba'ado yimloch nora, ve'hu haya ve'hu hove, ve'hu yiyeh v'tifara, ve'hu yiyeh v'tifara, ve'hu echad min sheni, lehamshilo leachira, ve'li reshit ve'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamizrach, ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamizrach, ve'hu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzur v'li be'etzara, ve'hu nisi u'manosli, menat kosi be'yom ekra, menat kosi be'yom ekra, ve'yado ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, יום השישי. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה. וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו. בשבת קודשו באהבנו ורצון הנחילנו. זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לצפיית מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים. בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. God who frees the captive, look with mercy upon us. Grant us shelter and solace, comfort and consolation, blessing and renewal, so that recovery can begin, leading to a complete restoration of heart, mind, and spirit. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai yishmerecha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God shall keep you from all evil, shall keep your soul. Heavenly guide, hand of love and shelter, grant us your protection, your wholeness and healing, and your peace. Shabbat Shalom.